I'm here to talk to you on behalf of the Caribbean Voice, which is a non-profit, non-funded NGO emanated out of New York with an incorporated branch in Guyana. Our main focus is suicide prevention, anti-domestic, and advocacy on anti-violence. The presentation I'm going to cut short is not going to be one that is going to get you off your feet. Rather, it can be a little depressive when you hear the figures that I want to present. In 2014, Guyana was ranked #1 in suicides per capita worldwide. And here we had the world attention because that's a serious thing, but not for a good cause. According to the World Health in 2014, Guyana suffered 42.2 suicides per 100 deaths per persons per year. In effect, there were about 333 suicides per year in a population of what? 750, 100,000. But it's also estimated that at least 25% of the suicides go unreported for several reasons. Now, this could mean that there were at least 425 suicides per year in 2014. However, empirical evidence revealed that unreported suicides were higher than the 25%, and that actual suicides were higher than 425 annually. And at a global estimated 25 attempts per suicide, Guyana would have almost 11,000 attempted suicides per year. Not being a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist, but because of some training that I've been fortunate to receive. One would recognize depression, uncontrollable anger, family discord, couple disorders, domestic violence, alcoholism are the main causes for suicide. Of import is to note that based on the track record we have, based on the evidence so suggested, it is possible, very possible, that suicide and the suicide rate will increase in Guyana, because the experts are saying that depression, uncontrollable anger, family discord, couple disorders, finances, legal issues are the causes behind suicide. So with the closure of the sugar industry, the sugar estates rather, with the loss of income and the domino effects that will be prevalent, one can safely conclude that the suicide rate in Guyana will increase. In fact, Guyana has the second highest rate of teenage pregnancy in the Caribbean, with an estimated 97 teenage girls between the ages of 15 and 19 out of 100,000 becoming pregnant each year. In fact, 1,000 becoming pregnant each year. Also, the average Guyanese drinker, here, this is interesting. Ramon, this is interesting. The average Guyanese drinker consumes 13.7 liters of pure alcohol per year, with 6.1% of the population considered heavy drinkers. And these are World Health Organization 2012 figures. With respect to domestic violence, of the more than 60% of women who were involved in a relationship or union, 27.7% reported physical abuse. 26.3% had experienced verbal abuse, and 12.7% experienced sexual violence. Media reports for the year were not given. Yet, it is noteworthy that all these figures could be higher because of underreporting. I wouldn't want to bore you to let you, because all of us would have understood this living here. The stigma of reporting rapes and other domestic abuses. Because obviously, I don't want to knock the forces and the police like Ramon could do, because He's no longer working after 5 years. But there's a stigma attached to reporting rape, and you know the kind of hassle. When you report to the police, it's like you're a victim. In 2000, a landmark study, The Shadow of Death, a recent study of suicides in Guyana, incident causes and solutions, reported that the majority of those committing suicide were males below the ages of 35, predominantly East Indians of Guyana. They were likely to be poorly educated, employed in low-income occupations, reside in the same community all their lives, and to be less likely to have children. In Guyana, almost all of the suicides are committed by ingesting poisons like insecticides and by hanging, and are the results of abusive, dysfunctional relationships, teenage affairs and pregnancy, rape and incest, and inability to deal with the problems, lack of coping skills, self-esteem, unbearable pain, physical or emotional, and which generally give rise to awful agony, depression, feelings of helplessness. I would wish to take this opportunity to, since I've not been so praised, I did not see anything in the public. If the government of Guyana has indeed been taken into consideration what these effects will cause to not only the 10,000 immediate employees, but those of their families and children and the extended family. In fact, and I'll talk briefly on that, when the suicide rate was escalating on the Essequibo coast, it was said that, and these were like young teenagers committing suicide, it was posited by Essequibians that because of the fact that the rice farmers were taking out huge loans, that their children could not have coped with the rice failure, and as a consequence, they were committing suicide. I do not wish to sound as if I'm a prophet of doom, but based on the experience and empirical evidence that we have already received, and with my experience in the Caribbean Voice and the Caribbean Voice in a whole, we are positing the view that unless something drastic happens, the suicide rates and the attendant domino effects will escalate in Guyana. Mr. Gaskin was at the forum when we discussed on March 13, when we were talking about the Rosal Estate closure as an event. When I posited the view that, with all due respects to women, that prostitution, child molestation, domestic abuse, depression, and all the other attending conditions will be visiting the sugar areas like in Berbice. I was only there on last Wednesday and Thursday, and I've already seen forms of depression stepping in. It is a serious issue, and it is time that we become vocal to advocate, to remind, to suggest to the government that this is a serious issue. The economists and the other experts would tell us, Mr. Gaskin reminded us, you can't be bailing out $1 billion per year in an industry because it does not make economic sense. But you need to also look at what you're bailing out with the $1 billion. Because if you'll be saving the lives of 10,000 people multiplied by 5, multiplied by a community, then you have to bail out the industry. You have to find, if not bailing out the industry, some other economic viable form of ensuring that this high level of depression and this premised suicide does not enter into these communities. In 2017, the World Health Organization, good news. In 2017, April, the World Health Organization website quoted on April 4th, updated this year, said, from their latest tabulations, that Guyana is no longer, give us a round of applause, Guyana is no longer number one. We have gone down to number 4. We are no longer at 44.2 per 100,000 per capita. We are now 29 per 100,000. We're all intelligent, brilliant people, professors, eloquent people here, and the message will get across. It's a simple translation. From 2012 to 2015, because these results were released in 2017, but they're really 2015 figures. We have been able to reduce the suicide rate, and we've been able to, which is a good thing, move down from number 1 to number 4 in the world. Although the latest tabulations indicate a steady rising rate of suicide in Guyana from 2000 until 2012, there is a notable decrease between 2012 and 2015. According to the website, Guyana's suicide figure has been climbing since 2000. Now, 62% of the suicide cases come from ingested liquid, poisonous substances, and a recent breakdown of suicides per region. This is interesting to note. Please note the suicide breakdown per region. Region 6 accounts for 30.9% of the suicide deaths in Guyana. Region 6, a 3-estate region, Skeldon, Albion, Rosal, is recording 30.9% of suicide deaths in Guyana. Region 3 is second with 22%, a rice-dominated production environment. We're talking Essequibo Coast and the islands. And Region 2, 13.4%. According to the most recent stats divided by gender, men were 3 times more likely to kill themselves than women. Why? Who are the breadwinners most likely in the sugar industry? Who are the breadwinners most likely in the rice industry? Men were 3 times more likely to commit suicide, to kill themselves, than men. Women, according to the WHO, according to the most recent stats, divided by gender, men were 3 times more likely to kill themselves than women. And according to the World Health Organization, each year, 800,000 people die owing to suicide globally, which is the second leading cause of death among 15 to 29-year-olds globally. Suicide is accounted for 1.4% of all deaths worldwide, making it the 17th leading cause of deaths globally. Now, the other part too is very interesting, and I'm quoting the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization cites rural poverty, alcohol abuse, low numbers of full-time psychiatrists, and easy access to deadly pesticides as the leading causes of self-inflicted deaths in this country. There are indications that for each adult who died of suicide, there may have been more than 25 attempted suicide. And Region 3 is among the 2 other regions with the largest prevalence of suicide, with 113.6 per 100,000. It was reported that over the past years, Region 3 accounted for 26.5 cases of the attempted suicide. The point I wish to make is that I am not certain, I certainly do not hold myself out to be one of the experts or the qualified persons that can discuss with the government. I know the government has a mental health department that has been working. I would have thought that the mental health department would be the first to receive the figures from the World Health Organization. And I also am presuming that they would have fed these stats through the decision-making bodies. But, like I said earlier, that suicide has been occurring in regions where it's labor-intensive, where they do not lack, they have a lack of, in percentage, a higher level of education. Depression is more prevalent, among other things. So, as we are visiting the 179th commemoration, anniversary, and celebrations, and talks in Guyana, I wish to impart on you that it is vital that we consider the effect that the depression that will be caused by the closure of the sugar industry or by the closure of the estates, Rose Hall, Skeldon, and Enmore, among others, that it will have devastating effects on Guyana. I recently alluded to the fact too that we are not only talking about the workers at Rose Hall Estate and Skeldon out of job, their families being displaced. Towns like New Amsterdam and Corriverton are going to be ghost towns. So I want to come back again and make this point very vocal. We need to balance if our human resources are more vital than our financial resources and how we mix the two. We need to make a conscious decision. In some cases, I'm stepping away a little, the economists would say that sometimes for companies to become viable, the senior officers take a tax cut, a salary cut, so that you can still retain some employees. What kind of cut can we take to bail out the sugar industry and prevent the massive depression and suicide that will occur in Guyana? The Caribbean Voice, which, like I said, is a non-funded organization, we've received no grants from the government of Guyana. We have made several attempts to discuss with them how we can help, because we have a group of experts, dedicated volunteers. Unfortunately, however, perhaps we have been deemed, I say this now with no regrets. If you're an East Indian in Guyana and you become not necessarily anti-government, and you voice your concerns, you're being branded a racist or you're being branded a PPP supporter. I am hurtful if I'm branded as any, because I hold no forte for the PPP nor the PNC. And certainly, those that know me, I don't know how you can think I can be racist. So as an individual, I'm shocked. But this is what happens. For those who don't know, I present a television program, Coast to Coast, on Fridays, among other things. The very first callers would call in. I was talking, myself and some other Indian rival guys were there and we were talking. And the first call is, why you are so racial? What it is that would make one racial to want to be proud of what you are? And I had to tell the caller, friend, if you know me, you would know that I promote programs for Diwali, Pagwa, Eid, Easter, Arrival, Emancipation, the Amerindians and everything. So how are we racial? The point, however, is not me. It is that I think, and I ask you all collectively, to let your voice be heard, because this is what is going to happen. The domino effects, if you look like a town like New Amsterdam, the greater population there is dominated by our African brothers. But they rely on the sugar estate. I was born in a sugar estate, Plantation Rose Hall Estate. I gave 12 years of my life in the sugar industry. I'm grateful. I had training from the sugar industry. I'm grateful I served my time. It came a time I had to move on. But those who know, when the factory is not grinding at Skeldon or Rose Hall, and you go into the stores, you would see sparse choppers, as you were seeing when we were attempting the parking meters. And the first salespeople would say, factory grinding, the money and flowing. The bars that we frequent, the eating places and everything. I spoke with a few Chinese restaurant owners Wednesday last, and they are preparing to shut shop when Rose Hall Estate shut shop. Now, what the Caribbean Voice has been doing is that we were training persons for suicide awareness and capacity building. We were promoting and implementing the training of trainers program gatekeepers, which we only last 29th of April was our last training program for 40 persons in New Amsterdam, where we trained at least 7 policemen, people from other NGOs, the region, and the sugar industry. We have been promoting public awareness campaign posters, TV and radio programs, and we champion the cause for community efforts. I wanted to go on, but I realized that we were here a long time, and we're also not very numerical. But I would close by saying to you something, when I was told this, without no evidence, I had Dr. Byro Harry, that we all know, a leading psychiatrist, sat on my show last September, and he said, Nazim, 10 to 15% of Guyanese suffer mental disorder at any one time. That translates to 78,000 to 114,500 Guyanese. But he was quoting the World Health Organization's figures. Now, ladies and gentlemen, how did the World Health Organization get their figures? They are the World Health Organization. They work with the local organizations that compile the figures, and the local organizations like the Ministry of Public Health here and the Statistical Bureau and others, they would submit to the World Health and they would assimilate from their experience. So these figures are basically factual because it's coming from the World Health. It is estimated that 3 to 5% or 20,000 Guyanese of our population has a severe chronic disorder. And that of the 20,000 persons who were seen in consultation in 2015, over 1,000 had required admission. Now, obviously, if you've been told that you have a mental disorder, that by itself is traumatic. There is taboo in being told that, hey, you know, you have a mental disorder. And the first thing is Guyanese have been perpetuated. I took umbrage to a column in the Kaieteur News recently that was saying something and somebody make Jack Deere or somebody wants to drink poison. We perpetuating in the media the ideation of suicide, whereas we're supposed to be responsible. In common parlance, think for crying, then we'll laugh. It is, in common parlance, think for crying, you'll laugh. Because suicide ideation can be formed by the present discussion and giving concept ideas. You present the Werther's effect. That is the copycat effect, and we've all experienced that in Guyana. One person jump off Kaieteur Falls, great thing, the other person gone down there to jump off. You go down in a blaze of glory, right? So, we have a mandate, and the mandate is the Caribbean Voice Unfunded. Is to try to train people. You see, what we do in Guyana is we push taboo subjects under the carpet. We don't talk about a relative if he's flighty, you know, and you shun him. And you look at you don't call the New Amsterdam Psychiatric Ward what it's called. You say, Bobby's Man House. I don't have an issue with Ramon saying that some of the guys need to visit down there. Because, I can tell you this, mental disorders are curable. You know what is not curable? Plain, simple, ordinary, downright vindictiveness and stupidity ain't got no cure. That is what has no cure. Stupidity. And with respect to vindictiveness, you have to change a mindset. But mental disorder, you can be cured, you can be counseled and other things like that. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't wish to keep you long. I just wish to read one line from a poem, or rather than reading the poem, let me just quote Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, who said, "The heights of great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, toiled upward through the night." We can all understand it. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.